It's again very nice for all of us to meet and interact this evening. Thanks to COVID, all of us are forced to stay at homes. This is a good way of interaction and having some discussion and exchange of knowledge. It's as you understand, it's only like social distancing, but nobody can make us isolate totally socially. So thanks to technology and various platforms which are available, and we are able to discuss on some of these important aspects of lipid therapy. And we thank our Facts Foundation technical person, Mr. Noor, for organizing this through BlueJeans.com. Dr. Jain was
Thank you.
particular we shouldn't be using Zoom, so we took it, and then probably we are doing it to BlueJeans.com. And then what we wish to discuss, I think more and more people are joining, and we welcome one and all for this webinar on lipid therapy, particularly with stress on newer therapies like PCSK9 and inclisiran. Okay. Then what the plan, as we mentioned, is initially after each of them welcome everybody, then probably we'll go on to presentations. I will do my presentation, will be little more covering various aspects of PCSK9. I would briefly mention in my talk before. Then next will be Dr. Gokul Reddy, my colleague at Apollo, who will be covering these latest two trials which are presented in ACC 2020. Of course, it was done virtually like this. And there's some new data which is very interesting has come up in that. And then after that, I circulated. Third will be Dr. Rajendra Kumar Jain. We are very much thankful to him. He's also owner of KIMS Hospital, gave time for us. And thanks to COVID again, because all of us are able to meet here. And then he will be talking another interesting therapy of inclisiran, which is supposed to be, has the power to eradicate this coronary artery disease significantly. With these words, I would request each of the speakers today first, Dr. Gokul and Dr. Jain to say a few words. And we are also thankful to Dr. Shastri, senior cardiologist, HOD Now Care, and Dr. Shiv Kumar, again good friend and in charge for Apollo Secunderabad, and always ready to help us, and various other seniors who have joined here, and many more. The screen has become bigger now, we can't see all the names. I thank one and all for joining. I'm closing the chat box, and you can briefly welcome, and then I'll go on to my presentation. Briefly, again, as mentioned, I titled it as Lipid Therapy with Stress on PCSK9 Inhibitors Recommendations, and probably what is the future for these molecules. I thank Apollo Group of Hospitals and then all my colleagues who are mentioned here, Facts Professional Services, various hospitals. It's particularly become very useful to run this hub and spoke model, because in times of tough times like this also it helps. We have seniors, juniors, mid-level, we support each other. That's how I think we have more strength, especially in times of COVID, and also in problems where the emergency management could become difficult, or day-to-day coverage could become challenging. It's each of us helping each other is a great feeling, and thanks that to all of you, my colleagues who are doing it. As Dr. Gokul and we generally take care of most of the activities, but each and every person in the team is very important and helps in various forms in day-to-day patient care. Coming to this today's talk of today's lecture, the brief agenda would be, I would briefly cover up the lipid guidelines. We're starting from 2013. That's the most important, I would feel, because that is first time given very clear-cut guidelines regarding the lipid therapy, which are the subgroups of patients which will benefit most by using statins. High-intensity, moderate-intensity statin was also first brought in the 2013. Then modifications came in 16-18. European Society also modified, and Indian Lipid Association also gave guidelines. I would touch briefly upon those and then go on to PCSK9 inhibitors, and then how they started and what is the mechanism of action, and what is the various scientific data, how these molecules have become very strong, and concentrate a little more on the 4 years trial, because that's the trial which is most important, which shed a lot of new lights on the mechanisms of actions of PCSK9, and also a large trial. I would take a little more time in detail and come to current recommendations of PCSK9. And then one of the important recommendations was also on familial hyperlipidemias, how to diagnose it on 1 or 2 case examples. And PCSK9 treatment, many of us talk about it, but once you show those biochemical parameters, the lipid levels, how it varied from person to person with the treatment, that gives us a lot of confidence. So as a symbolic, I'll show 1 or 2 case examples. Then the topic which again new manufacturers Amgen, Reddy's is more interested also may be useful is usage of these powerful molecules in acute coronary syndromes, because wherever there is more mortality, probably you will also have more benefits. And then we propose to plan this trial, the evolocumab in ACS in India trial. We'll briefly discuss and conclude. And then gradually, again in the end, after the presentations, we'll go for discussion. This should be my plan of discussion in the coming 20 minutes or so. As I mentioned, initially the 2013 guidelines were significant enough because it proposed these 4 subgroup of patients which benefit maximum by this high-dose statin therapy or moderate intensity statin therapy. These concepts were also first launched in 2013. As most of you would be comfortable with playing cards and Rummy and something like that, you have 4 important cards there like J, Q, K, and ECA. The main indication, ACE indication of statin therapy is any patient with clinically demonstrated atherosclerotic cerebrovascular disease, right? Be it be coronary artery disease, stroke, or peripheral vascular disease, any of those. And that is the indication in which high-dose statin needs to be used. Then anybody who has a primary elevation of LDL cholesterol of more than 190, that is, becomes a second indication because their events are found to be maximum in it. The third important indication, again, diabetes is a killer disease, and whoever lipid levels are not that high, but even in between 70 to 189, if they have diabetes, then again they become indication for statin therapy. The fourth important is, even if you don't have any of these, the ACC-AHI risk calculator, which is available freely, if you have a 10-year risk of more than 7.5, you become again indication for statin therapy. Why I wanted to cover this is very clearly mentioned. Then previously, how to calculate this? The risk, again, it depends upon the age, sex, race, cholesterol levels, and blood pressure values, diabetes, and smoker. You calculate this, and each of us would get a risk like this. What is the present risk? What is the 10-year risk? And the risk is more than 10%, then it will be more risky in future, and very high risk could be more than 20%. Then how to achieve that targets values, which were initially cutoffs were given as 130, 100, but gradually what we noticed is many of the times we were failing to achieve those targets. So what it changed was high intensity statin decreases whatever the previous lipid value by 50%, and moderate intensity will decrease it to 30% in between. So that's how the small doses which we generally use in day-to-day practice are not effective. If we have to give high intensity statins, it should be rosuvastatin 20 or 40 or atorvastatin 40 or 80. Moderate intensity is what is mentioned here. These concepts first came out in 2013 very clearly in these guidelines. Then again, another important aspect was changed in 2018, where the role of PCSK9 inhibitors, which is present topics of discussion today, was particularly stressed. The very high risk subgroup of patients, this is first we are talking about secondary prevention, very high risk subgroup of patients who have very high levels of lipids and not controlled even with high dose statin and ezetimibe. This is mentioned that PCSK9 inhibitor becomes a class 1 indication here. This is what first time it was clearly mentioned about the PCSK9. Whereas if other patients who have less risky, then you can initially try with ezetimibe. But again, when you fail to achieve those, the PCSK9 was indicated. That's what is mentioned. What is very high risk, as I told before, recent ACS or history of MI, then history of ischemic stroke or symptomatic peripheral arterial disease with ankle brachial index of less than 0.8 or previous revascularization and amputation. These again becomes very high risk conditions. Other high risk conditions, the elderly age of more than 65, familial hypercholesterolemia, then prior revascularization, then diabetes mellitus, hypertension, low GFR, current smoking, elevated cholesterols despite maximum tolerated therapy, and history of congestive heart failure. All these patients, we need to take it seriously. Another concept which came as risk enhancers, especially in presence of diabetes mellitus, again, the longer the duration, albuminuria, low GFR, retinopathy, neuropathy, again ankle brachial index of less, suggesting again peripheral vascular disease, again are supposed to be important. That's about the secondary prevention which mentioned about PCSK9. The primary prevention guidelines, again, where this was mentioned is this indications here which are mentioned as standard like before, but here specific again interest was anybody who did not get disease, young age, 0 to 19 also, if he has a familial hypercholesterolemia, probably you'd put them on statin. And these 20 to 39 age groups where the risk of getting into trouble is more, again, high dose statin could be recommended. These are again indications in which it's not coming under control, then probably you take help of PCSK9. In these age groups of 40 and 75, probably which will apply to most of us who are participating here, again you stand into very high risk, more than 20%. If you are not able to achieve the targets, then again you could take the help of PCSK9. So these green things indicate the roles of PCSK9. Again, the risk enhancing features, some of these I have already touched upon. Wherever they are there, again, you need to treat these patients more aggressively. And they also mentioned about high sensitivity C-reactive protein and elevated lipoprotein A. All these were also particularly thought to be risk enhancing features in this. Coming back to today's topic of interest, PCSK9, I feel I don't know why all these new molecules which come up have very complicated names to make our life more problem. But anyway, besides it, proprotein convertase subtilisin kexin type 9. That's what is the full form of PCSK9. Thanks to English, which we can use synonyms and abbreviations. PCSK9 is fine. PCSK9 synthesized mainly in liver, enters the circulation, binds to LDL receptors, and target them for the degradation. So when this, if you see this cartoon, it shows the mechanism of action. These are the PCSK9 molecules which are produced in liver. If it binds to LDL cholesterol receptors, then it will go inside and the particles get disintegrated. If you prevent the working and binding of this by inhibition of PCSK9, probably that will take up more LDL particles and more of things will be getting metabolized. That's how the lipid levels in the blood will decrease. So that's what is shown in a different type of way, probably more attractive to your eyes. The lipids are coated like lipid is yellow, and these are molecules are receptors, and this is what is PCSK9 inhibition monoclonal antibodies. So that's how this molecule have a different mechanism of action apart from the standard statins, which we know, which were basically HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors. So first, actually, when this was started, seeing some families in which the levels of cholesterol were very low. When they've analyzed what it is, then some of these alleles of PCSK9 were not present in those families. That's how this concept that this inhibition of this molecule could reduce lipids have come up. And now we know that the successful reduction combination of this, they can decrease lipids by 50 to 60% even as monotherapy. That's the power of PCSK9. We had various trials coming with alirocumab. Evolocumab is available in our country. Other thing is not available. The various trials which are shown with and without ezetimibe shown that they are very efficacious. And the Odyssey trial, the long-term data also we know that it is found to be efficacious. Osler 1 and 2 trials also showed they are beneficial. Now coming to the important trial of today's discussion of a 4 years trial, which is again a large trial, has 27,564 patients who are high risk but stable, established coronary cerebrovascular disease, prior MI, prior stroke or symptomatic PAD. That means there is no ambiguity of diagnosis in these patients. And then the lipid levels in them have to be more than 70 milligrams of LDL cholesterol, but not straight away. They have to be on high or moderate intensity statin therapy plus minus ezetimibe. That was optional. So you imagine these patients' lipid levels without these. So these patients are high-risk patients with high cholesterols, persisting high in spite of treatment with standard high-dose statin therapy. Then these will be randomized to evolocumab and placebo and followed up initially for 12 weeks, then gradually up to 2 years. So this is surprisingly, initially itself, within the first 4 weeks itself, there's dramatic reduction of LDL cholesterol to as low as 35 milligrams per deciliter. And when it was followed up again till the end of the follow-up, also these levels were maintained. So they noticed the absolute reduction of 59% in the treated group. If you see the primary endpoint of 4 years trial, which is basically cardiovascular death, MI, stroke, hospitalization for unstable angina, revascularization, there is 15% reduction in the primary endpoint. If you see the secondary endpoint, again, the CV death, the unstable angina revascularization was not there. Basically, CV death, MI, and stroke in this secondary endpoints. At 1 year, it is 16%. At 2 years, it was 25%. This again, with increasing follow-up, there was more number of increasing benefit noted. If you also try to see, depending upon the lipid levels, what is the values which was going on. If somebody has LDL cholesterol of more than 100, suppose that is you think is the average reference range, you brought it by 10% to 70 to 99 range, the risk improved, decreased by 10%. And if you brought it to 50 to 69, the events decreased by 13%. If we brought it to 20 to 49, which people thought would be dangerous initially, the again event rates decreased by 25%. And there were some patients who already lipid levels went down to below 20 also in this, and the risk decreased by 31%. So it suggests that the more the decrease, the more could be the benefit. If you see high risk subgroup of patients, that means who had very high levels of lipids, probably they could benefit the most. That's what was analyzed and it was proven correct. And if you see patients who had MIs before, because some of them were MIs, some of them were stroke, some of them were peripheral vascular disease, they have analyzed it separately. And MI, qualifying MIs within less than 2 years, that means relatively early, the benefits were more compared to those patients who had old MIs. Benefit was there, but much less compared to those. And if you see patients who had more than 2 times prior MIs, then again the benefit is more. The curves separate more here, and the number needed to treat in such patients is only 38. If a patient you see only one prior MI, 16% reduction, and then probably number needed to treat will be more here. So in other words to say, the more events the patient had, the more benefits you were getting. And when you see angiographic analysis wise of the patients who had multivessel disease, the curves were separating more and they had more benefit. And number needed to treat was less here, 29, compared to those patients in which no multivessel disease was there, where number needed to treat will be little more and the benefit will be little less. In other words to say, the higher the risk of the patient, the more benefit he will have by these molecules. If you compare to the STEMI and non-STEMI, STEMI patients benefited more. Then when they try to analyze these with a relatively closer recent MIs compared to remote MIs, what was shown in the graph before, the recent MI subgroup has benefited more. So that's how the people started thinking they could have more additional benefits in acute coronary syndromes and acute MI if it is used. If you see the absolute number of events which are decreased, in the placebo arm, the primary events were 1563, which were decreased to 1344. Mind you, this is from the 13,000 patients of each subgroup, 30,000 plus patients were there. Events happened in placebo, this is decreased to this. And secondary things which are 1151 decreased to 848. All of them were found to be quite significant reduction of events. So if you have also seen compared to first event, second event, third event, fourth, sometimes in spite of using everything, there's a residual risk. Patients keep on getting events. Suppose somebody also had a more history of 2 events, 3 events, 4 events before, you see this. That's more the events before, the more benefit he is having, the more advantage by using this molecule compared to high dose statin alone. That's how we became more wiser that subgroup of these patients who had recurrent events could benefit more. Then they analyzed the stroke cohort in the 4-year trial. The lipid levels were similar and the reduction was also similar. It was not much different compared to the other overall subgroup. But if peripheral arterial disease, if you particularly see, patients who had peripheral arterial disease, again the relative reduction was 27% compared to overall subgroup which was less. And even the patients in which there is no peripheral vascular disease is there, again number treated to treat is high, 72, compared to those in which peripheral vascular disease is there, it's 29. That means peripheral vascular disease again could be potential indication. And some of these patients, unfortunately, who had amputations, again had much higher benefit compared with these molecules compared to those who didn't. Subgroup diabetes, again, was specifically seen because there is some argument saying that statins high dose especially could lead to problems in increase in diabetes events. Evolocumab group did not increase the risk of diabetes, and the amount of decrease of lipids is same in both patients who have diabetes, pre-diabetes, or no diabetes. If you see this graph again, whether patient had diabetes or not, the benefits were equal and probably no worry of increasing sugars. Low LDL subgroup. Some patients who had just higher, little more than 70 subgroups, 72 was on lower concentrated, then probably had a lesser benefit compared to those patients who had higher lipid levels. When they try to see how carefully this trial is analyzed, you see somebody who had a higher cholesterol values compared to somebody who achieved the lowest cholesterol value, the difference itself, even in this subgroup of patients, there is significant, again, difference in the cardiovascular efficiency. That means the more lower the cholesterol had, they had benefit compared to those subgroups in which the lipid levels were not so decreased. But if you see the safety aspects, in spite of using very high dose, in spite of bringing down the cholesterols to such low levels, there is no adverse effects did not matter, did not differ. That's again important for us to note. Age and sex groups, again, there's no significant difference. In spite of whatever age groups they had, all of the age groups and both females and males got benefited. with this analysis. If you see the other lipid parameters, not only LDL cholesterol, what is also noted is this is the beauty of this molecule. HDL cholesterol is increased by 5 to 9% in spite of 59% reduction of LDL. Then HDL cholesterol slightly increased, it did decrease. Lipoprotein A, which is very difficult to treat only with statin, decreased by 25 to 35%. ApoB again levels decreased. This is again heartening to note that lipoprotein A, which supposed to be useful and predictor in Indian subcontinent, also decreased. This is Banting study again was specifically seen for diabetic subgroup. Again, it's beneficial. That's to conclude about this trial data. Basically, PCSK9 is very strong reduction in lipid levels happen with consistent reductions even in other molecules like apoprotein A with the synergistic benefits with other molecules. And if you see again safety, again concerns were there initially about safety. Osler showed with other molecule that it's safer, and the 4 years now this trial showed in spite of very high dosing and continued usage of more than 2 years, the safety events did not decrease. We are worried about LFT and neurocognitive dysfunction or other problems like my muscle problems. Nothing were different. Only problem which was different was slightly more incidence of local injection site reactions with this molecule. If you see in chronic kidney disease again, obviously stage 4 and 5 were excluded, but stage 2 and 3, again, there is no difference compared to the preserved kidney function group. So there is no problem in using this molecule in this patients of CKD. A word about familial hypercholesterolemia again. We generally tend to underestimate this molecule with this subset in clinical scenario, but probably whenever you get a patient with raised LDL cholesterol of more than 190, then probably our suspicion should increase. Family history of premature CAD and signs of these tendon xanthomas, xanthelasma, other things coming, and probably many young ACS patients sometimes we could also have these problems. So that's lipid criteria were noted. Basically, what is mentioned here are the gene, which is difficult to test, but LDL cholesterol of more than 330 is almost certain, that is definite that it is familial hyperlipidemia. In between values, the scoring points decrease. Again, tendon xanthomas, again, very high points of 6. And this graph is available, table is available. Diagnosis happens with lipid criteria. This is a clinical example. I think Gokul would remember this case. This is a very young chap who had triple vessel disease. Later, we were forced to send him for surgery. This is tendon xanthomas, which are noted here in this patient. And then if you have to see that many of the patients come on treatment to us, how to find out their original cholesterol values, what they were. The patient was on atorvastatin 40 milligrams, suppose, and you have some value. So you have to multiply with this factor which is mentioned here to get his pre-existing lipid levels so as to suspect. That's what this slide helps us in identifying patients. That's what I have mentioned initially. Probably we think it is very rare, but in this population-based study, it was not that rare. In 1:357 could have this familial hyperlipidemia problems. And this molecule in the thoracic study was tested with this evolocumab. If you have shown that in 2.7 per year event rates, when they are followed up by 4.1 years duration, the values decreased. But as we know, it is significantly decreased in heterozygous familial patterns. But in homozygous, this molecule, as expected, is less efficacious, about 20% reduction in cholesterol levels. Whereas here in heterozygous varieties, again, quite effective, like in general population, about 55% reduction was noticed in this study. The statin intolerance group, obviously, you have no choice. In this GOS4 study with the esdimib alone, some people used, but again, PCSK9 was used. Is non-blinded form in between. Again, when PCSK9 was kept, both achieved similar levels. Obviously, there is no comparison with esdimib and PCSK9. So now we have very strong data about its tolerance and efficacy of these molecules. When now you have with a therapy which you can significantly lower, then researchers and we doctors, clinicians, all can think of again further getting it very low and identify subgroup of patients which would benefit by this. So their identification and this mention of very high risk group, which I've mentioned before in the earlier slides came, and then probably targeted levels were less than 55 in these very high groups of patients. Initially, it was supposed to be 70, it is decreased to 55, and high risk group it was 100 before, now decreased to 70, and other changes were done. And the word many of us also want to know what our Indians are doing. Lipid Association of India in 2016 statement also adopted the same of European Society, and very high risk subgroups, we want our LDL cholesterol to less than 50 or less than 50% of whatever you can pre-existing values. So that is our Lipid Association of India statement. 2019 European Society and Atherosclerosis Society guidelines, the recommendations for PCSK9 are in secondary prevention, patients of high risk, if you are not able to achieve, in spite of maximum tolerated dose of statin and still levels what you want, you are not able to achieve, this is the class 1 indication for PCSK. Then very high risk familial hyperlipidemias, again, generally you won't achieve the levels, again becomes a class 1 indication. And if statin intolerance not tolerated, then probably even after rechallenge, even after additioning ezetimibe, still it is indicated, still levels are high, probably this becomes an indication. Other important, which is a recommendation, which I am intrigued, which is very useful for our doctors, I feel, is the primary prevention, patients at a very high risk. Please note this. A combination, obviously, we have to use statin and then probably ezetimibe in some group. But some people where the cost is not an issue, if you have obvious very high fall into very high risk, like you have a documented atherosclerotic plaque or borderline disease in angiogram, things like that, you could be again very useful molecule even in without occurrence of these incidents, but it needs to be studied more. Coming to the point of more focused attention today, acute coronary syndromes, then LDL cholesterol, again, initially recommendations why they said after 4 to 6 weeks of therapy only, then you add up this molecule. That's what is the data shows. But within that time also, whether you can add this molecule more early, that is of the interest now. So as we know that the standard indications which I mentioned before are the primary hypercholesterolemia or mixed dyslipidemia. The dosing is mentioned here, 140 milligrams every 2 weeks or 420 milligrams once monthly. And homozygous familial hyperlipidemia, then you need to use higher dose, 420 milligrams. So this again in a different form of expression, which is making it clear. Established CVD, high risk, in spite of statin therapy, you have to use this molecule. Familial, you use higher dose. Statin intolerance, obviously you use. These are the standard indications. So now we have the evidence of PCSK9 inhibitor usage in high-risk patients in the form of 4 years trial. It is beneficial in peripheral arterial disease, stroke, in presence in spite of diabetes, chronic kidney disease, and safety is quite well established. And even familial patterns, it is very useful. And statin intolerance is seen in GOS4 study. I would show, seeing is believing, I would show examples of lipids of one of these follow-up patients. He's 51-year-old gentleman, probably if you see, in 2018, total cholesterol was 252 and triglycerides were also high and LDL were 179. It's almost like independently, if it is something more than 190, you tend to start treatment. And fasting sugars are 93. Then if you see again, after a year of all the lifestyle modification, exercise, whatever you do, his values continued to go high, 264, and LDL cholesterol became 210. This became worry, and more than 190 becomes the indication for treatment. So somehow doctors are also poor patients, they don't tolerate statins or on. Then in spite of using it, then PCSK9 injections were started. You see dramatically, I was also very surprised to note initially in 7 January, if you see this, the total cholesterol value decreased to 160. I was surprised. And LDL cholesterol decreased to 82. I was so happy to see. If this is again different way of expression. Once 2 injections are given, the total cholesterol values decreased from 250 to 160, and then LDL cholesterol decreased from 180, 190 to again such a low levels. Other beauty is if you see this HDL, this is a gray bar, it's always remained the same. It didn't decrease. So that is again a beauty of this, but unfortunately we didn't see much of change in triglycerides, which somehow in India it's also common. That's how the newer molecule, which Dr. Gokul will present, has some more role apart from this evolocumab. So the PCSK9, what I was talking in high-risk primary prevention is some of us or some of the doctors who are challenging of no finances, if the documented plaque is there, and maybe statin they tolerate or may not tolerate, in spite of that also if you use this molecule, there could be more regression happening. And when somebody sees their plaques, they would be more happy to take any form of therapy. Coming to acute coronary syndrome, we have no doubt that aggressive lipid lowering has plaque stabilization and benefits a lot in many of these patients. And then whether you have benefit or not, there's no doubt. When to measure the lipids in acute coronary syndromes, the minimal difference happens in after admission within for 24 hours is what is recommended. Luna trial again showed that it doesn't matter even if you do it in 20 to 48 hours. Then if you have to see the benefits of lipid lowering in acute coronary syndrome, actually all of us are very well aware. There are a lot of data which came showing that even the follow-up events will be very high. And in this miracle trial, prove it trial, lot of trials which are done in acute coronary syndrome phase, lipid lowering benefited. But when we see what are the values we were achieving in spite of high dose statin, only 30% of post-ACS patients were achieved less than LDL cholesterol of less than 70. Now I am moving on to ACS. So if you see, hypothetically somebody calculated with a doubling of statin dose and also adding estimab and adding PCSK9, how much we could reduce. That's how we became more intrigued in adding this molecule. 2019, European Society and Atherosclerotic Society said probably adding this molecule could be of benefit because we know that 50% of the patients are not achieving the targets. Now, this is a big question whether to use PCSK9 in acute coronary syndromes. These old data of stable CAD 4 years trial I have discussed in detail, but what is now started about EVOPAC study, this is again started in acute coronary syndrome immediately after post-ACS because we became wiser with that these people, this group of molecules also have other benefits. In this acute coronary syndrome could be STEMI, unstable angina, various LDL cholesterols are very high without even statin therapy, or low levels of LDL cholesterol with statin therapy were put on two arms. One group was given, other group was given only 40 milligrams of atorvastatin. And when they've seen, obviously, when you give PCSK9, the lipids level decrease significantly. Undoubtedly, it happens. And if you see the target levels, how much was achieved, if you take cutoff as 70, 95% achieved in this molecule, subset of ACS. And if you take a cutoff more rigorously, 55, 90% of them achieved, which is much better than what we have. So now we have to prove this concept, whether this will work. So that's how initial trials were done to see the plaque regression happening in these patients. GLAGO trial, plaque regression which was noticed, statin monotherapy versus with evolocumab. When you give this new molecule, atheroma values, when they were studied with IVUS, significant reduction of atheroma volume happened. Total change in atheroma volume also was noted. But if you see lipid levels, how much it decreased, then in Repatha group 36 plus and placebo it is 93 plus. So again, now we became more wiser. OCT again is more specific and more sensitive in detecting. That's how the plaques rupture. We know, and this subgroup of patients, 64 patients in which statin monotherapy versus evolocumab, obviously we need not see these graphs because anyway lipids will decrease with this molecule. But what is also noted is it is borderline type of lesions. This lipid arc from here to here and the lipid thickness, which we call as fibrous cap, this thickness increases, plaque becomes more stable, and lipid decreases, then that becomes useful for patient. On the follow-up within 2 weeks, 12 weeks itself, the lipid arc decreased and the fibrous cap thickness decreased. So if you see this, again, is very encouraging to note that probably these patients would benefit. Some of these newer emerging data of PCSK9, not only on the lipid, not only through lipids and in limiting vascular effects, the smooth muscles, platelets becoming less sticky, endothelial cells, macrophages, all these are found out with this PCSK9 inhibition. So exotic study is another new study which is being planned in ST elevation MI. Before primary PCI, if itself one group gets evolocumab, other group is a standard, and the various types of parameters, including infarct size, are being planned. The results we are waiting for. This is what is very applicable to our country, I feel. I think I'm exceeding my time, 5 minutes. Evolocumab in acute coronary syndrome is what we are thinking of. Basically, you in acute coronary syndrome stage itself, you check LDL cholesterol, you also check the other markers of endothelial function. And probably this what is planned in the study was with the FDG PET to see the decreased inflammation along with the baseline lipid levels. But probably we can also have some OCT sub-study. This we can discuss more in our discussion. Thus to conclude, what we have discussed in about last 20-25 minutes is basically any hyperlipidemic therapy, lipid therapy has to be first started with statin. Anything has to be statin plus some other thing. It's not right to exclude this unless patient is totally statin intolerant. So we have estimab. Now we have any other powerful molecule of PCSK9. We now know that it is very highly effective, causes ultra low LDL reduction of 60% plus in spite of high dose statin, and proved to be very safe on long-term follow. Then recurrent events and revascularization rates and MIs significantly go down on follow-up. The higher the risk the patient has, the previous more MIs, more multivessel disease, the more the benefit to this molecule. So standard indications are failure to achieve the expected reduction in lipid levels, that is in secondary prevention, or familial hyperlipidemias and statin intolerant patients. what we are intrigued and what we want is PCSK9 inhibition usage in ACS, again, whether it could be beneficial. Then high-risk primary prevention is again with documented plaques with statins or statin intolerant patients is again a very interesting fact which we need to be studied in phenomena, and probably our what we planned study we can again discuss on conclusions. And these are discussion points I would take up in the last 15 minutes of discussion. Thank you very much. Hopefully we should be able to conduct this without virtual TCT. Request all of you to take note of this. Maybe we can do it. Thank you all for your patient hearing. And sorry for it. It's taken a little more time than this thing. Now I'll request Dr. Gokul to go on to these two new trials which have come in the ACC for presentation now, which showed some other new data also. Noor, can you change to Dr. Gokul? I will stop sharing my slides. Then
Yeah, please.
Gokul can start.
Yeah, good afternoon, colleagues. Today I'm going to share with you the two trials present recently in the ACC in March. Three were presented, which actually worked in different mechanisms. The alirocumab was a PCSK inhibitor. The evinacumab works not through LDL receptors. It's an angiopoietin 3 inhibitor. Inclisiran, Dr. Jain would discuss about it. It's an mRNA inhibitor. So this first study, the Odyssey homozygous familial hyperlipidemia, was presented by Dr. Blom of South Africa. The background is, we all know the homozygous hypercholesteremic patients are very difficult to treat. They are not very common, though as Srinivas has told, it's 1:250 to 1:300 for heterozygous and 1 in a million in homozygous. But what these people tried is homozygous familial hypercholesterolemia, one. Next is a compound heterozygotes and also a double heterozygotes. The baseline of these studies, they should have a severely impaired LDL receptor function. The other pathways of people presenting would be a gene mutation of ApoB, a gene mutation of PCSK9, a gene mutation of LDL receptor protein. So this was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled, parallel group phase 3 study to evaluate the effect of PCSK9 in homozygous familial hypercholesterolemia. The reason was the previous trials would notice that the homozygous patients respond differently to PCSK9. All of them don't respond uniquely. In fact, the patient what Srinivas showed you, he saw a patient, a 30-year-old guy. We tried PCSK9 for almost like 6 weeks. So the LDL from 600 came to 580. There's no difference at all. Then we stopped. He's actually for a liver transplant. So these kind of patients, people don't know why it responds differently. That's the reason this trial was planned. So it was as a routine, was a running period of 6 weeks in which the patients were enrolled. They're all 18 years and above, having a homozygous hypercholesterolemia, LDL values more than 70 on a stable lipid-lowering therapy or apheresis. 69 patients were enrolled in a 2:1 pattern. Alirocumab 150 milligrams was given 2 weekly once. The placebo was given for the other group. They were followed for 24 weeks. But this data is only for the 12 weeks. Probably the final data they would present in some other conference or book published. This data is only for the first 12 weeks. The next 12 weeks was a open label study. So the baseline was matched. The average age was around 40 years. Almost like you can see 40% of the patients already had established cardiovascular disease, and they were all like BMI of 25.1 exactly. 40% of them were homozygotes. The another % were compound heterozygotes. That means that almost 70% have a very low LDL receptor function. So when you see this slide, almost like every patient is on statin, and 85% of them on high dose statin, and almost 70% was on estomib. There's one more drug, lomitapide, is not available with our place. That also was used. And more important is they used apheresis also in 15% of patients almost. See the lipid levels in spite of people being on so many lipid-lowering therapy, 295 in the drug group and 259 in the placebo group. And all the other lipids also elevated. The ApoB is 193, huge. LPDL also is high. This was the result. What they showed is there's a 27% reduction. The previous slides, what it was shown the 4 year was 60% reduction kind of thing. But here, there's a 26% reduction in the homozygotes. In fact, in that trial also, 20% was the usual reduction in homozygous. Here was 27%. So absolute is 63 milligram per deciliter when compared with the placebo in 12 weeks. This slide is interesting. The bars with empty are the one with the placebo. The bars with the full color are one with the drug. What you can see is in the first blue one, the homozygous ones, the response is varied. The star indicates a null mutation. That means that the LDL receptor factor is very, very low. In them, you can see the response. Some people it increase, some people decrease, but none of them it decrease significantly. And almost when you combine all these things, there is no response at all. And when complex heterozygotes also, there was a single null mutation. In this also, the LDL actually increased, but what the trialists have pointed out in the discussion was probably they were patients whom not very compliant with the therapy. And the heterozygotes, they responded well, but for one patient whom again they said probably compliance was an issue. So this again says that what we are experienced with one patient only, but it didn't respond. The other lipid parameters like total cholesterol, the ApoB, the non-HDLC, LP-little, all of them decreased by 19 to 22%. So this is very important. More than 30% of LDL reduction was seen in 57% of patients on drug and only 4% of patients on the placebo. And more than 50% reduction was seen in almost 1/4 of patients. That means it still works in 50% of the homozygote patients or complex heterozygotes. And, there were no major side effects. There was no serious side effects in either of the thing. So this was the largest randomized study. What they have opined is the LDL response is more variable in patients with homozygous familial hypercholesterolemia than in other forms. And the degree of LDL reduction observed with the drug in patients with homozygous hypercholesterolemia was consistent with that observed in previous studies like the Fourier. And, they again point out that the other drugs are necessary, and interestingly, the other molecule ANGPLAT3 inhibitors, that's the next trial is also by the same company, the Regeneron, and interestingly, both the studies, the presenters were from South Africa. When I checked, it was said that the incidence of FH is very high in South Africa. In fact, there are some communities in which the incidence as high as 1:50 to 1:100. In fact, one of the Indian South African community also, there is incidence of 1:100. One patient every 100 patients is a FH patient. This is the next trial. Tried the evinacumab in same patients. The trial design was similarly to the previous patients. All of them were supposed to go for a run period in which the background lipid lowering therapy was stabilized. And they were screened for 2 weeks, and again they were given for injection evinacumab as infusion monthly once versus placebo for 24 weeks. Again, there was a parallel open label study. The study design was almost similar as the sponsor was saying. The results also of the first 24 weeks, not the second half. The inclusion criteria of both the trials are same, but for the age. In the first study, the age was more than 18. In this study, the age is more than 12. The diagnosis of familial hypercholesterolemia homozygotes is by the follow criteria, at least one, either a documented mutation in both genes or one of these genes. The fourth one is interesting, what we also see very commonly, untreated total cholesterol more than 500 and triglycerides less than 300, and either both parents with documented total cholesterol more than 250. Because we don't have this genetic analysis problem, this one we can rely. Exclusion was LDL less than 70. When you see the mean age is similar to the previous study, 36 versus 43. The predominantly were white people, and what you notice is here the null mutation is almost there in 1/3, 27 plus 9, 33% of the patients had a almost nil receptor activity, and 72% of them had some receptor activity. And all of them were on statins, estimab. The interesting thing is 72% in the drug group, 79 in the placebo, were already on PCSK9 inhibitors. That means that on PCSK9 inhibitors, the LDL cholesterol was still high. And you can see that of 50% of them are 3 types of lipid-lowering therapies. The primary endpoint, what they noticed is the drop of almost like 50% from the baseline. When you go for the absolute values, it's close to 132 milligram per deciliter, which was never achieved in any of the previous trials. When the evolocumab achieved a reduction of close to 40% or 50%, and the absolute values were 63 only. Here the absolute value is 132. This is more interesting slide. Patients with more than 30% reduction was seen in 83%. Patient with more than 50% reduction was seen in 60%. And the most interesting is patients who did not meet the criteria were only 7%. That means that 93% of them were taken off the apheresis. The interesting thing is this drug doesn't affect the lipoprotein little a. All the other things are affected. It's because of mechanism of action. It doesn't act via the LDL receptor. That's the reason this is not affected. This is the slide which is most important is people with a null mutation, that is almost no LDL receptor activity, and people with a detectable LDL receptor activity, the effect is same. You can see that both the orange and the green curves both are same. The extent of reduction of the LDL cholesterol is same in both, even with the some receptor activity or no receptor activity. The side effects were almost like nil, but these two were specifically mentioned. One was urosepsis, one was suicide attempt, but the trialist said that both these side effects have been adjudicated not related to the drug. But I'm interested why did it present. The conclusion they said was that evinacumab substantially lowers the LDL cholesterol in homozygous patients, regardless of LDL receptor function, which is very good. The evinacumab may provide an effective treatment option for patients with homozygous hypercholesterolemia who are unable to reach the target LDL-C despite multiple convention therapy. The limitation is it's not a long-term trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Gokul. I think we'll have discussion after Dr. Jain's talk. Over to you, Dr. Jain. You can share your slides and start presenting.
Okay. So thanks to Srinivas Kumar. He always comes up with newer ideas, even COVID times also. He called up a couple of days back. I told, can you talk? I said, definitely I'll talk. I don't have any work to do. So this is a very interesting molecule, inclisiran, the oligonucleotide, and it will change the way we treat coronary disease once it proves that it also reduces events. Right now we have data that it reduces LDL, it is safe, there are no adverse events. But we need more data when we start treating this, taking this molecule into routine practice. So the most important thing in any practice is adherence to multiple oral medication. That's the biggest problem in cardiology. For example, in hypertension, the recommendation is you use a combination of a drug. Don't give separate pills. Like if you have an ARB with a calcium channel blocker with a diuretic, you combine it, compliance is better. So similarly, for statins, unfortunately, people don't use. This is a data taken from 50% of the patients forget to take most of the tablets. And it is sometimes is as high as 44%. Once in 2 weeks is 23%. Every week is as high as 26%. And then we might think that missing some doses is okay, but it is not okay. Definitely the event reduction will not be that good if you miss some dose of statins. I'll tell you in the last slide why it is like that. And after this, I will just go into this inclisiran. Inclisiran is I'll just go into mechanism action. The mechanism action is very interesting. They took a lot of time to develop this molecule because they wanted this molecule to be stable. It has to act selectively on the hepatocytes. So they wanted a better stabilizing agent to enter the hepatocytes. So this small interfering RNA targets the PCSK9. So it is specifically delivered to hepatocytes by GalNAc. So because of this GalNAc, this drug is delivered specifically to hepatocytes. Once it is delivered to hepatocytes, this connects to acetylglycoprotein receptor. Once it connects to acetylglycoprotein receptors, the guide strand delivers to RISC, that is RNA-induced silencing complex. And once this RNA-induced silencing complex is formed, this RNA-induced silencing complex with interfering RNA cleaves the PCSK9, by which the mRNA gets degraded. Once the messenger RNA gets degraded, there is increased LDL receptor density, which causes decrease in circulating LDL. This is how these drugs acts in reducing the LDL cholesterol. The problem with the drug, it took a lot of time. In fact, they got the Nobel Prize for the people who started this concept of interfering RNA, but it took a lot of time. The problems was the stability was not there, but this has increased stability. And second thing, as I said, increased specificity, that it has to only attack hepatocytes, that is by GalNAc, which is a stabilizing thing, and it binds to the receptor, and increased longevity. The half-life should be long because of this RNA-induced silencing complex, which has a very long half-life. That's why this drug is used only twice in a year. This is how this molecule works. Coming to the evidence, as all of us know that we always need evidence in cardiology. They started that Orion clinical development program. There are Orion 1, 2, 3, 9, 10 and 11 trials. So this is the first trial which was published in New England Journal of Medicine in 2017. 70 patients they took in the trial. LDL was more than 100 milligrams. There were single and multiple dose arms. And if you see, there was 80% reduction in PCSK9. And you can see there's a 50% reduction in LDL cholesterol, as equal to any monoclonal antibody which you have discussed in detail by a couple of the speakers, Dr. Srinivas Kumar. So with this, they started more programs we call Orion 5, Orion 9, Orion 10 and Orion 11. Orion 5 was more for homogeneous familial hyperlipidemia, and Orion 9 was for heterozygous familial hyperlipidemia. The numbers were very small, but more interesting for us is Orion 10 and 11. Orion 10 was done in US, which is for again atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease with secondary prevention with LDL cholesterol more than 70. Orion 11 was done in Europe, in South Africa. Again, it was atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, secondary prevention and high risk primary prevention with cholesterol more than LDL more than 70 and more than 100. So what they did in all the Orion trials, the design of the trial was same. That is, once the screening is over, on the day 1, patient gets first 300 milligrams of the drug, follow up at 30 days, the next dose at 90 days, follow up at 150 days, and after this 90-day dose, every 6 months the patient gets a drug. And then the patients are followed up to 510 days. As I said, in all this trial, the trial design is same, 9, 10, and 11. There is no change in the trial design. And the end of the study is 540, that is 90 days after the final dose. And if you see the entry criteria for Orion 10 is atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease with LDL more than 70, patient on statin treatment, either maximally tolerated doses or documented intolerance. Ezetimibe was allowed. Exclusion criteria, as with all the trials, any patient with heart failure or severe dysfunction and any MACE in the last 3 months before randomization, and patient whose fasting triglycerides more than 400, they were excluded from the trial. Any trial, when you want to see how the trial is efficacious or not, how many patients completed the study, that's most important. That indicates how many people did anybody stop the drug because of side effects. If you see, 92% of the patients completed the drug when compared to placebo. So that means the drug was well tolerated in this group of patients. And if you see the demographic profile in this high risk cohort, 42% of the patients were diabetic, 9% with heterozygous familial hyperlipidemia. Statins were used in 89%, of which high dose statin was used in 79%. Ezetimibe was used in 9%. I was telling earlier that whenever you work in a lipid clinic or whenever you want to do a best for your patient, always use a combination drug of a statin ezetimibe, so that the patient will not be hesitant to use 2 drugs. But even in this trial, if you see, ezetimibe was only 9%, whereas statin is 89%. If they use ezetimibe with statin, probably 89% of the patient were on both drugs. That's unfortunate because the concept of combining the two was not used in this Orion 10 cohort also. And if you see the LDL cholesterol lowering, if you see at the 90 days or at 540 days, it is a 58% reduction in the cholesterol. The p-value is very significant when compared to placebo. And if you see the duration, that is, it not only starts reducing cholesterol as early as 3 months, but it continues to have a low cholesterol even at the end of the study drug. That is 58% reduction in the LDL cholesterol at the end of 18 months. That is, it's a durable. That means it's durable LDL cholesterol reduction. Coming to the side effects, the adverse events mostly were related. Mild adverse events was there. That is little more than placebo, 1.7%. But the injection site pain, which was there in the earlier part of the cycle 1 and cycle 2, changed with a pre-filled syringe. So the injection site reactions were reduced to 0.9% with the change. Whenever you use this long half-life drugs, which acts for 6 months, you're always worried about the side effects. So if you see in this, there are no excess increase in the liver enzymes, no ALT, no SGOT, SGPT elevation, bilirubin is not elevated. There is no elevation in creatine kinase, no worsening of renal function, and no difference in platelet count. Coming to the adverse events, there was no increase in the adverse events, and none of the patient discontinued the drug because of any adverse event. And this study was not designed to see the event reduction. So this is not important that there is no significant reduction in the cardiovascular events. And adverse cardiovascular events, it's not much of difference between inclisiran and placebo in Orion 10 study. Coming to Orion 11, and this was done in Europe and South Africa. I believe in Europe, all the trials are done quicker than Americans. Americans, they have a lot of questions. They take more time for the trial. That's why Orion 11 was shifted to Europe and South Africa. And again, if you see number of patients who completed 18-month study is 95%. That's a very good number. And that means the patient tolerating the study drug was good. And again, 11 again consistently showed that the time average reduction is more than 50% in LDL cholesterol, and at the end of 18 months, the reduction in the LDL persisted up to 54% when compared to placebo. In this Orion 11, there was slight trend towards reduction in cardiovascular events, and there was no worsening of any side effects in this trial also. So it was safe and tolerable. So with the success of Orion 9, 10, and 11, the most important study which we're all will be waiting for this, and the results will be out in 2024, that is Orion 4 cardiovascular outcomes. The number of patients included is huge. It is 15,000 patients. This is a patient with a prior MI, prior stroke, and peripheral vascular disease. 1:1 double-blind randomization. Inclisiran single dose, that is 300 milligrams for any type of patients. And the follow-up is 5 years. That's a very, very important part of the study. If you see all the MAP studies, monoclonal antibodies, the PCSK9 inhibitor studies, the duration of follow-up was small. That was for 18 months. The maximum was 36 months only. But here we're going to take for 60 months because the curves try to diverge later. So that's why this study will tell us more about this molecule, how benefit will be to wait till 2024. So summarizing, the inclisiran has shown that single dose is enough, 300 milligrams subcutaneous, day 1, day 90, and after that every 6 months one injection is enough. And this is for all population, all subgroups, no change in dose, single dose. That's the beauty of this drug. Till now, there are no problem with safety signals in any of the patients. 3,000 patients are under follow-up who are taking this in the Orion program. And as I said, Orion 4 trial will tell us more about this drug. So as I said, the adherence is the greatest challenge in management of lipids. Probably this inclisiran, by just taking 2 injections a year, can change we can do a disruptive technology and can change we practice cardiology. This is a very interesting slide. As I said in the first slide, why adherence is so important. If you see you have to take 365 pills every day to have a LDL reduction of time adjusted LDL reduction of 23 milligrams. So if you miss some of the pills, the reduction of LDL in the yellow segment will come down. Whereas the MABs, you have to take 26 injection MABs to get 31 time adjusted average reduction of 31 milligrams. Whereas if you take this RNA, this vaccination and gene editing, you can have a 39 milligrams time average reduction of LDL by 39 milligrams. And again, if you see the events also in the last slide, which is a linear diagram, you can see here, if you take statins, which again, the LDL cholesterol is reduced by 23 milligrams, the event reduction is less. MABs, again, the cholesterol average time average reduction in LDL cholesterol, it is 31 milligrams. The events are better than statins. Whereas this oligonucleotide, the vaccines and gene editing, where the time averaged reduction in LDL cholesterol is 39 milligrams, and they will have more reduction in events. But the ultimate thing which will come, which all of us might need, is vaccination, where you might take one injection and that should be enough, or you might need a booster. And the ultimate thing will be the gene editing. The gene editing they are going to do through CRISPR-Cas9 platform, which is going to be very promising, and probably by another couple of years this should be possible. We'll have the gene editing will happen, and that will again inhibit PCSK9 and will not have any LDL cholesterol in our less than 70 milligrams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen, for covering this new topic also very well, and probably what you said is very apt. If it has to be given only once in 6 months or sometimes once in a year, the compliance rates would be much better. As you understand, you told the mechanism well, but as just to make it more simpler, what I thought is basically the mRNA is preventing the formation of PCSK9 only, no? That's the basic mechanism.
So how it attacks the mRNA is by interfering RNA.
Yeah, it doesn't form PCSK9 formation only is stopped, not antibodies.
So there more LDL will be destroyed. So, but anyhow, Novartis is always, the Novartis CEO is Indian, so probably he'll give at a lesser price to us.
Anyway, thanks for sharing your thoughts. Hope we always want good things for the patients. With this, I think less of headache of taking daily a pill and taking one injection if it can happen. It is very good for the patients. Gokul, I just wanted to check with you regarding one. Out of the two molecules which are tested, evinacumab, I thought is basically blocking the GAG receptor, where the formation of both triglycerides and LDL are coming down. And in that study, both triglycerides and LDL came down. What do you feel? Did you see that? Your mic is muted. Yeah.
This is the one slide which is showing that.
Yeah.
I think the triglycerides again came by 50% minus.
So that is, I thought that is very useful for Indian subcontinent, where the other PCSK9s, which are though very potent on LDL, somehow they are lagging at the effect on triglycerides. Other good thing is HDL doesn't come down, which is good, but triglycerides do not come down. This other new molecule, I thought the benefit in India could be this particular feature where it is effective even on triglycerides. That's what I was saying.
This drug is given on
PCSK9, right. But placebo versus this, the triglycerides levels have significantly decreased. That means it works for triglycerides also, unlike PCSK9. I don't know what it has shown. Obviously, inclisiran also will work like PCSK9 because it is PCSK9 pathway mediated, but before early it is forming. So I think we'll take some comments from Dr. Shastri and Dr. Shivkumar for today's discussion. Some of these slides, which I thought I can share the last discussion point thing. Can I get that? Meanwhile, you can start telling your comments, sir, Dr. Shastri.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I congratulate Dr. Srinivas Kumar for taking up this initiative. Am I audible, Srinivas?
Yeah. Thank you, sir. We should be thanking you. There's nothing what we did because your time is more important.
Thank you. It is wonderful. Your leadership qualities are again obvious. Now, a couple of comments I want to make. Offhand, I can't give reference, but I have read somewhere in JACC, one of the JACC articles, that if your LDL cholesterol is less than 70 mg/%, that is when you stop the further progression of the lesion. Whereas when the LDL cholesterol comes down less than 50 towards 30, 35 or lower, the better, you start the regression of the plaque. And earlier it occurs after acute coronary syndrome, it is better. So most of the statin studies, of course, they too can bring down the LDL cholesterol to 35 if you give the good amount of statin and combine with ezetimibe. But majority of the people do not achieve less than 50. Whereas when you give PCSK inhibitors and inclisiran, definitely you will reduce it to less than 50 mg/% in most of the patients. So that's how these molecules are better. But having said that, we should understand the residual risk is still high. With maximum statin therapy, the risk reduction is about 35%. Whereas if you add PCSK9 inhibitors or inclisiran, the further reduction of about 15% in the events. So that means about 50 to 65% of the residual risk is there. And this residual risk is again based on whether you are having a acute coronary syndrome or chronic stable angina. The event rates following acute coronary syndrome are almost 4 to 5% per year, whereas chronic stable angina, the event rates are about 2% per year. So there is a much more pronounced role of anti-cholesterol therapy in acute coronary syndrome. And while we say that the acute coronary syndrome is more than atherosclerosis because of lipids alone. So atherosclerosis, atherothrombotic lesions in acute coronary syndrome is a combination of atherosclerosis, thrombosis, and inflammation. Probably in future, we'll be having a treatment of something like a inclisiran or PCSK9 inhibitor and antithrombotic agent like rivaroxaban small dose plus anti-inflammatory like colchicine or canakinumab. So that is one thing. And second thing, the last thing about the PCSK9 inhibitors, probably this is my speculation. I hope the proper studies will be conducted. Compared to any other drug used in the lipidology, PCSK9 inhibitors decrease the LP small a. They decrease by 30%. And LP small a is very important in the pathogenesis of the aortic sclerosis to aortic stenosis, the degenerative aortic stenosis, calcification. Probably in future, the available studies did not include enough number of patients, but probably I'm sure companies will be interested. And now you are doing TAVR. Probably a day may come when how to prevent TAVR by using any of these therapies, especially the PCSK9 inhibitors, decreasing the LP little a, and probably you can prevent degenerative aortic stenosis. And finally, Rajendra Jain has made the point about the why Novartis bought medicines company about $9.7 billion. The probable reason is the small interfering RNA inclisiran is a smaller molecule, whereas the PCSK9 inhibitors are a bigger molecules. So I believe at this level, it is the quantity of the molecule that you make, the cost becomes important. And PCSK9 inhibitors were not successful, not because of the lack of efficacy, but they are very expensive and many patients are unable to buy. The average cost is $5,500 per year, whereas the inclisiran probable cost will be between $2,000 to $2,500. So probably Novartis must have calculated the community reach will be much more apart from the convenience of twice a year dosing. So these are some of my comments. Any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for getting another new dimension. I did mention that LP small a, which is supposed to be useful in our country, it again gets decreased by this molecule, and you brought another dimension of decreasing aortic stenosis and decreasing incidence of probably severity of aortic stenosis. It could help in degenerative aortic valve and decreasing TAVR too. Hope will happen. Another heartening news is if it can be available at a cheaper price to patients, it's always welcome for us. And Novartis definitely would get it to our country. Let us hope so. And we'll hear, we are getting new dimension of preventive cardiology, sir.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know me in the audience. My name is Ravi Batina. I am a resident of San Francisco. My interest in the last couple of decades is one of is preventive cardiology, as Srinivas said. What I want to say is I'm a consultant of an institute called SAHC, South Asian Heart Center in San Francisco. This is entirely for prevention of heart disease in Southeast Asians, Pakistani, Bangladesh, Sri Lankan, China, and so on. 2 points were brought out by Dr. Shastri and Dr. Jain. What I've seen in this South Asian Heart Center, compared to any other ethnic group, Indians have highest incidence of heart disease. And we looked into it. One of the reasons is, number one, diabetes is more prevalent in our ethnic group. Number two, 9% of Indians have this high levels of Lp(a). So I believe this new molecule is a lifesaver and game changer for our ethnic group. So I'm looking forward for more and more of this and coming out of that. Second point I want to bring, I don't want to take too much of time, is a lot of, again, same my experience, we have a lot of pre-diabetics compared to any other ethnic group. If you can comment, I don't have direct experience with this molecule. I read somewhere, I think about 2 years ago, British Heart Journal, I believe, Euro Heart Journal, pre-diabetics, if they receive this drug, they right away turn into overt diabetics. So that's one kind of painful thing. So one point is about pre-diabetics, I don't know what to do. Maybe we got to live with it. But the bottom line is, in the long run, outcomes are better with this new molecule. So maybe we have to put a blind eye to the pre-diabetics converting into diabetics, but go with this drug. I'm all for it. Number two, especially little Lp(a). This is the boon because Indians have high levels. Almost 8 to 10% of Indians have little Lp(a) and there is no treatment. So this could be the one magic step. So thanks, Srinivas, and the rest of the group for this wonderful conference, and God bless you. Bye.
As I specifically mentioned, there's no worry of pre-diabetes turning into diabetes. In at least in 4 years trial, the large subgroup, there's no difference. Sugar values didn't go up, and none of them became over diabetes, unlike with some of the statin, especially in Jupiter, which happened. There's no worry that specifically look for in 4 years it didn't happen. That worry is not there, sir. All of you see these slides, my slide which I put now, discussion point? Briefly, before we go on, I think most of the things which were covered before, measurement of ACS in the acute time, 24 hours, then probably ultra-low LDL reduction, and then safety concerns are not there, quite safe. These parts we have concerned. And as Dr. Shastri mentioned, there could be more role in ACS with these molecules. Apart from the not only lipid therapy, but as noted with statin, there is very strong evidence coming up that PCSK9 has other odd benefits, which we call as plaque stabilization, pleiotropic effects, which are seen with statins, which are more seen with even this molecule. And we need to generate our own data probably to become more confident and use this molecule in ACS. I think we have exceeded our time, but Shiv Kumar's mic, is it become all right now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. We can hear you, Shiv. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry for the whole delay. Anyway, thanks, Srinivas. It's a fantastic show. Just wanted to add on to a few points what Rajendra has said, that basically I would say the inclisiran is something like, closing the tap, whereas the PCSK9 is, clearing the thing with a bucket. So probably that's the basic difference between the two would be. And for the benefit of others, I think nowadays we normally have three ways of controlling it. One is ASO, that is antisense oligonucleotides. And second is, of course, you have PCSK9, which is monoclonal antibodies. And the third is, of course, RNA. The only thing is you must have seen that it is usually written as a small interfering RNA. So I just wanted to add on that, that's very critically important, because the usual double-strand RNA will have an interferon response. And whenever you have an interferon response, it will completely shut down the protein synthesis. So in that way, you can't do a gene silencing. So that is the reason the most important thing is to have a small interfering RNA, which is basically the inclisiran is, and then probably that's how it is achieving it. The only issue I will say is that all these trials are good, but basically still not showing the all-cause mortality reduction or CV mortality reduction. Although alirocumab has shown some amount of the all-cause mortality, not with the evolocumab. So probably still we'll have to see whether, as Dr. Shastri put it, that probably just being LDL reduction itself may not achieve the complete goal. We may have to use, of course, the CETP inhibitors failed, so HDL increase could not really convert into any this thing, but probably the anti-inflammatory, especially the CANTOS trial which came. So maybe the combination of all these things probably in larger run can reduce the overall CAD incidences, and probably we can start seeing better results by doing an IVUS and OCT in seeing the atheroma progression as well.
Thank you, Shiv, for your comments. So basically, I was also keenly watching why is this event's cardiovascular mortality is not decreasing. As you understand, basically all these trials are done in relatively stable patients with for secondary prevention like events are decreasing. It is very difficult to decrease the mortality because initial subgroup of patients which you are taking do not have a very high mortality like ACS or MI. That's why if you do a trial with these molecules in probably acute coronary syndrome MI, you could come out with mortality benefit. Other thing which Dr. Jain
just
mentioned,
to add on, Srinivas, the Odyssey trial was on acute coronary syndromes. Actually, basically, it was from between 1 to 12 months of ACS events. So that is the reason, as you said rightly, maybe that's the reason that it has shown a reduction in all-cause mortality or CV mortality in that particular trial. So yeah, maybe you're right that probably the acute coronary syndrome would respond more.
And regarding the follow-up thing, what Jain mentioned, Jain, 1 minute. What you mentioned was a short follow-up. Initially, 4 years also was planned to taken up for 4 to 5 years. Why they've reduced, they've mentioned specifically is the events which they thought would be less, but a lot of patients were having significant more events in the placebo arm and some events also in this arm. That's why they thought that reduction of follow-up to 2.2 years is good enough. That's why the initial plan 4 to 5 years is decreased to 2.2 years in the 4 years trial. That is just wanted to mention that because of follow-up. Yeah, you go ahead, Jain. What you're telling something?
So Shastri sir, say this very interesting thing. I don't know. I was part of the Odyssey trial. We randomized about 30 patients from a hospital, patient with acute MI, stroke, and PAD. So whenever we identified patient, we used to send the blood sample to the central lab. And a lot of patients were not eligible because they used to not tell us the results, but they're not eligible. And we could randomize of all our patients, 25 patients. We were blinded. We didn't know who got the drug. And the study went on well. We didn't have any problems. None of the patients had a problem. But when I thought of using this molecule in the practice, and whenever I had the database of patients whom I wanted to randomize for Odyssey who were not willing to participate in the trial. But when they came back again after some time, sir, we're ready to participate in Odyssey now. But I said the trial is over. Then I started telling them that we'll start. And I wanted to get a cholesterol level after giving a good dose of statin. And what I found, majority of my patient with the high dose statin, their cholesterol levels were coming to 70s. And there's no point in starting PCSK9. They were reasonably controlled. And when I talked to, I think, other Indian colleagues, doctors who are experts in lipidology who wrote that Indian lipid guidelines, they also told that in India, the statins, they are able to reduce the cholesterol level much better when compared to US. I don't know. So what's your comment on this? And even Srinivas, Gokul and Shivkumar also put their comments on this.
The pre-existing values of lipids itself in India, some subgroup of patients will be less. In ACS, MI, we do see some patients who have a total cholesterol of 130 and LDL of 70, still they suffer MI. That's how this concept of targets were not correct for India. We thought 50% reduction is what we wanted to achieve in subgroup of patients irrespective of the pre-existing lipid levels. That could be one of the thing, or we are measuring only total cholesterol LDL, whereas as Dr. Ravi Bhattana mentioned, triglycerides or lipoprotein small a could be also playing some role in such sort of patients. But as you rightly said, statins also are effective, provided they are used in right doses. Many of us use only 10 milligrams and say thinking that it is not useful. But we need to have, now that safety is established, you can use it more. Siva, you want to tell anything?
Yeah, you're asking me?
Yeah, you wanted, it appeared
Yeah,
as if you wanted to
yeah.
say.
Yeah, Jen, I would say one more thing is that also depends, how the LDL is calculated, because there was a lot of discussion on this in the presentation last year, that normally Friedwald formula is used to calculate LDL, which had its own drawbacks. And there is another method of biosensors method, biomarkers method, whereby you can calculate the LDL. So even that becomes important in overall assessing what exactly are the LDL values are.
It was
That
a
is
direct
me, but
calculation. It was
now the
not
recommendations are there
direct
that
calculation, not by
even
combination.
yeah, okay. But of course, now the recommendation is that as low as even 10 milligrams of LDL, they have shown no side effects, and there's no neurocognitive dysfunction in that. That's of course surprising and quite shocking also. But I really don't know what would be the benefit of that on overall CAD.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
now, yeah, you want to say? Mic is muted. I think it
Jain,
is,
Srinivas,
yeah,
can I
go
come
ahead.
in, Srinivas Kumar?
Yeah, please, you
Yeah,
can.
about
We'll
the, yeah, quickly 2 points, and I'll think we have to close it also. Jain has raised the question about the LDL levels less than 70 and all. I think now there is very clear data. It should be less than 50 in secondary prevention, especially. The children, newborn children, have LDL cholesterol about 50 milligram% or less. And absolutely, as Sivakumar was saying, there is no side effects less than 50. And even less than 50, we know that TNT trial or something has shown lower the LDL, better the event rates. So that part, don't bother about the LDL, especially secondary prevention. Bring it to less than 50. And Indian patients, are, for that matter, anybody, unless they are homozygous cholesterolemias or heterozygous or some gene-mediated, genetic-mediated cholesterolemias, they respond very well to high-dose statins and ezetimibe. So you think of these things when these drugs fail. That's number one. Number two, Dr. Ravi Vatsana was mentioning about the diabetes. Sir, there is one Mendelian randomization trials. It is clearly shown there is a link between the lower LDL cholesterol and higher sugars. Forget about any of the drugs. The genetically low LDL cholesterol people have higher fasting blood sugars. So if you get it through statins or any of these things, they are likely to develop diabetes. The third point, which I thought important for the clinical practice, is the conventional risk factors. The importance of conventional risk factors stops the moment somebody develops acute coronary syndrome. Among the patients with acute coronary syndromes, those who have got non-conventional risk factors are likely to develop future disease, because you are likely to take care of all the conventional risk factors like hypertension, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, smoking, exercise, etc. So it is any patient who suffers from acute coronary syndrome, we should actively look for non-conventional risk factors like LP-little-a, homocysteine, vitamin B12, high fibrinogen levels, whatever you want to do, and see whatever you can intervene. And like Dr. Ravi Bhattana said, if 10% of the subcontinent patients have got high LPA, probably that subset of patients, it may be prudent, it's a speculation, no evidence based, that you can think of lower threshold for PCSK9 inhibitors to demonstrate reduction in the LP-little-a. Thank you.
And as you mentioned, ultra LDL reduction to less than 40 is where the plaque regression happens. I think that we should not forget. We should not just be happy with 70 or 50 target. And Gokul, you want to say anything before we conclude?
Yeah. There was actually one small study of evolocumab in plaque regression. What they showed was when the LDL was around 50s, there was only 1% plaque regression. And in placebo, the plaque progressed by 0.05%, and in drug, plaque regressed by 0.95%. The average is 1%. So plaque regression is still what I feel is a slightly farther ahead target rather than achieving the plaque stabilization. I don't know. The plaque stabilization probably is the way to go forward as of now, and the hydrostatins still work for that. So statins we cannot forget as a armamentarium in our patient.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned even in the concluding that any lipid therapy has to be statin plus. And though we have the welcome change with the newer powerful molecules, for effectively going into the era of ultra low LDL reduction. We are hopeful that they do good in acute coronary syndromes also.
Yes,
We are
yes,
also
yes.
possibly planning for such study. If possibly everybody cooperates and companies come forward, we'll plan that. I thank one and all for all your time and then probably preparing for this meeting. Thank you. Special thanks to Jain, Shivkumar, and Shastri sir and Gokul for taking this seriously, and Dr. Ravi Bhatia and many others. I think I see 37 or something joined. And thank you one and all. And thanks for making it. Hopefully it was of some sense to all of
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, and we
Thank you.
conclude.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas.